get out of here, we're gonna make the owners of this shop give us an interview.
Yeah, and if they don't, we play Contra.
Yeah! Let's do this.
Hey guys, can I help you?
Yeah, man, we're gonna make you give us an interview.
That's fine, come on in.
Hey, don't make us get tough.
I said yes, you can come in.
It's time to pull out the big guns. Yeah!
Alright, look guys, I don't want any trouble. Why don't you just come in and we'll do the interview.
All right, that's what I thought.
Yeah! Hello, and welcome to Mad Cow Gaming.
Let's move.
What are we doing today, Jimmy?
Well, it looks like we're doing another interview here with the great Carey Williams of WarpZone in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. It's good to have you on our show today.
Thanks for having me guys.
Yeah.
Hi everybody.
Our pleasure. So, we're going to go through a series of questions, probably like 5 or so questions apiece, and we're going to get some insight on him as a gamer, game store owner, and so on. So, if you want to go first?
Oh, no, you can go first this time.
Go first? Which one? Okay. All right, so question number 1. What was your inspiration behind starting a game store besides making money, of course?
Me and my wife have always been collectors and, we've collected various things, and we've always been gamers as well, and we've always kind of come back to gaming. Even if we got our focus changed on a different kind of collectible or collection, we always kind of would come back to gaming. And we'd go to, flea markets and game stores and yard sales and stuff like that back in the day, and we'd buy stuff for our collection. And then after a while, we'd start buying like whole collections, and keeping what we wanted out of it, and then selling the rest on eBay or trading it into a store to buy other things. And after a while, I had like the kitchen lined with shelves and the hallway lined with shelves and shelves in my bedroom. And at some point we were like, this is getting a little out of hand, and me and my wife just kind of like tinkered around with the idea of like finding a little place and, having a place to display our merchandise, but also a place that people could come trade stuff in, just like in any other game store. And we were driving around one day and we just happened to see the old location, which was a much smaller place than this, had a For Rent sign in the window. And we were like, that's a nice little spot. And we were like, I bet we could afford the rent there to start off something small for ourselves. And we actually, met with the people, and a couple weeks later we set up a little shop in there. And it wasn't just video games. We had like toys, and we had, other collectibles in there. We even had like glassware and stuff like that, like Care Bear cups and stuffed animals, and anything that we thought somebody would want. After a while, we just kind of started to lean into the video game stuff because it just started to become what we were known for. You know what I mean? So we slowly pushed out the other merchandise. We sold board games and all kinds of stuff, and just filled it up with more video game related stuff than the other items. And we just kind of slowly grew it. You know what I mean? We stopped doing as much on eBay or trading in other places, and just focused on doing it in our own brick and mortar location. And once we outgrew that place, we found this place, and purchased it, and now we live above here, just like at the old store. We live beside it because we run it for probably maybe a year at the most, and then I told the guy that was running it to me, if you ever sold the place, I'll buy it. And sure enough, he sold us the house and the store.
Oh wow!
I literally agreed to buy the house without even seeing the inside.
I hope that wasn't a mistake.
It wasn't. It was a nice house.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I wanted the store, it was like, I could own the store, sure, you know what I mean? And we had our nice little shop over there, and then we just kind of noticed, we'd have a sale and people would be elbow to elbow in the shop, you know what I mean? And I'd honestly notice the door open, and like somebody would come in during a sale and see it was so crowded, turn around and walk out, and I was like, we're kind of limited, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was like, I really liked our little shop, but I kind of noticed it was kind of holding us back a little bit, just the size of it. And I thought, do we build out and make it a little bit bigger? And then we just kind of determined it'd just be easier to find a new location. So when we found this building here, we decided we were going to turn this apartment complex into a shop at the bottom, and then the 3 apartments upstairs into a 5-bedroom house. So we could easily accommodate our children too, because we kind of outgrew our house in addition to outgrowing our store.
How long did all that construction take?
It's still taking place.
How many years now?
We've been here a little over 3 years, and we've had our trials and tribulations in this building. I'm not going to exaggerate. Right after we moved in, the basement flooded.
Oh my!
And the floors started kind of like caving in a little bit. Like there wasn't. I think they took a load-bearing wall out of this floor. So like all these supports that are in here are stuff that I've had installed.
Okay.
Same thing within the basement. And unfortunately, in the first 2 years here, we had to spend between $40,000 and $50,000 just for the structure of the building.
Wow!
Yeah, trust me. I sold a lot of my babies out of my collection to help finance that, including.
Oh, bet that hurt.
I had a brand new graded Earthbound. I had a graded Pokemon Yellow that was the first print, and I sold probably 70 to 80% of my collection to help finance those repairs, but. I was more worried about advancing our shop.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I miss that stuff,
of course.
I had some really cool stuff that I'll probably never replace. And but I thought it was going to the greater good, by enhancing the store and make sure the place is safe and stable, basically. Yeah. So the arcade's nice and reinforced. You know what I mean? There's a lot of supports underneath it now.
Hey, growth is necessary.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to know what was your gateway game? The first game that truly captured your imagination?
Oddly enough, it's probably going to be the original Super Mario Brothers.
Okay. Really?
Because the thing about it for me was my first system was not a Nintendo. When I was like 5 years old, I had a hand-me-down Atari 2600. I had a shoebox of games that was given to me along with it. My cousin, he had like every game. So he had doubles of his games. He had an extra system. So it was handed down to me. And I played it a little bit. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I have some love for the Atari. But I was also like, you know what, I'm going to go play on my bike. Or I'm going to, it didn't have the hold over me.
Sure.
And when that Nintendo system came out, when the NES came out, it was like a shotgun blast to the face. You know what I mean? I was like, whoa, what is this?
This looks so realistic.
I played it at a friend's house who had it before me, and I was just blown away by Super Mario Brothers. And I remember going to elementary school, and I would have been in first or second grade. I remember drawing stages on like grid paper. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and then this is where you go here, and then I didn't. It wasn't the kind of thing where like my parents would usually buy stuff like that either. So like I said, my first system was a hand-me-down. It was given to me, which I failed to mention. I played on a black and white television because that also was a hand-me-down from my grandmother. So I had Atari 2600, black and white TV, shoebox of doubles. I was like, didn't wow me as much. But then one day, my uncle, who owned a video rental store in the 80s. Called Brewster's. It was my Uncle Bud. His name was Ray, but he went by Bud, so it was Bud Brewster. And he rented Nintendo cartridges at the time and VHS tapes. And I don't know if you guys remember or not, but back in the day, they used to rent systems as well.
Yes, yeah.
You'd have like a little hard shell case that you'd take it home in. They do the same thing with VCRs. Like you'd rent the player in addition to the media. And they had my parents, we lived in the Pittsburgh area at the time, and my uncle was in a small town called Sheffield, which is in Warren County. Most people don't know where it is. It's a very small town. And he needed a couple systems so that he could run them along with the cartridge games. And my mom and my stepfather were at the shop, or the store we were at, grabbing Nintendo items for him. And I think he wanted 3 of them, so I'm just kind of like Charlie Brown in it behind them, just like walking along as they're buying Nintendo stuff. That's not for me, you know what I mean? And they put 3 Nintendos in the cart, and my stepdad grabs a 4th one, throws it in the cart, looks at me and says, pick one game out. And my mind explodes because I'm like, oh wow, I get a Nintendo? And at the time, it was the one that was bundled with Mario Duck Hunt.
Right.
So I get Mario Duck Hunt with it, and I get to pick one other game out. And the game that I picked out was one that I previously played at a cousin's house over the weekend, that I stayed with him, and again was blown away by. It was the game Contra. So my very first Nintendo game, besides Mario Duck Hunt that was bundled with it, was the game Contra.
Nice.
Oh, the irony. All right, my turn again?
Yep.
So, okay, I think this will be an interesting one. So, if you could go back in time to when you first started with WarpZone, what is something you tell your younger past self about the business that you now know? Good advice, bad advice, just something.
What's funny is when I first opened WarpZone wasn't the name of the store.
Was it?
So
really?
I, for a very short period of time, I'd say maybe at the most a month or two, we were known as Treasure Hunt.
Okay.
Because me and my wife would joke when we went looking for stuff that we collected that we were treasure hunting.
Oh, that's cute.
And me being a naive person at the time though, because the state let me register that name.
Yeah.
There's a company, of course, already called Treasure Hunt. And, the reason I didn't pay any attention or knew that at the time was because I don't buy, the only jewelry you see on me is my wedding ring. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I wasn't aware that there was like a place to trade in jewelry and buy used jewelry at a place called Treasure Hunt. So in our first month or two of being a collectible store, we were getting phone calls. Hey, I got these earrings I want to sell you. And I'm like, we don't buy earrings, you know what I mean? And it was just like, after like 5 or 10 of these phone calls and people being frustrated that they called me and we're not a jewelry store, I called my wife from my office job at the time and I'm like, I got another call about, people selling us jewelry. I'm frustrated. I said, we got to come up with a new name for the store. Now, mind you, like I said, we had the name registered with the state. We had a sign that was, branded for that name and everything. There was even a caricature of me as a pirate in front of by the sign.
Oh, man.
And the same gentleman that did the WarpZone sign for us redesigned, or he designed the Treasure Hunt one, but later on redesigned it for WarpZone for us. But it was just like the Kirby character was a placeholder that became the main thing. Mm-hmm. When I was on the phone with my wife in my frustration, I said, I don't know, we'll call it like a video game reference like WarpZone or something. And then it just kind of ended up being the name because we didn't come up with anything that we liked better.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what, that's cool. It'll be WarpZone. It's a video game reference. And 90% of the people know, which it still blows my mind to this day if I reference WarpZone and they say it back to me like they've never heard that phrase before. And I'm like, what planet are you living on that you don't know what a warp zone is? You know what I mean? Like, who hasn't played Super Mario Brothers? But it still happens, I'll tell you, you know what I mean? I'll tell somebody over the phone what the name of our business is or something. They're like, did you say Rap Zone or Warp Zone? I can't tell how many times I was like they thought it was like a gift wrapping paper place or something like that. It's just, it blows my mind, you know what I mean? Because you think it's a well-known reference.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I saw some of the signs, so it kind of answers this question. But do you attend any gaming conventions or events?
We frequent the PGX show. We've been going to hang out with the guys from Pittsburgh Retro Gaming for many years now, since their earliest shows, and we used to set up at several shows. Now we just kind of attend to go, rub elbows with our buddies, and you know what I mean, just catch up with everyone. The only reason I don't really set up at shows anymore is just because it's time that I don't necessarily have, you know what I mean? And once we got our shop to a place where we wanted it, I always hate cherry picking the shop to take it to a show, because then when people come into the shop, there's less to be viewed. Yeah. And it's nice to make that money, all at once. But the challenge with it that I find then too, if you don't have enough eye-catching things in the shop, it almost turns a person off if they come in frequently. They'll come in and you don't have enough oddities or rare items. Then they might not be as, my intention is to dazzle people when they come through. I want to try to have as much in stock as I can of every item. So it's like anytime we're weaker in a section, it's distressing to me, because I want there to be something for everybody to be able to look at. And we'd go to a show like PGX or Steel City or something like that. We'd hand out tons of business cards, and we'd sell a ton of our good items. And then the following people would come in, and we'd be picked over. And then be like, oh, there's not much here. And be like, I just sold it all at the convention. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a catch-22, because it's like, oh, I made a lot of good sales, but then I hinder the next couple weeks of sales at the store itself, where I'd rather just have it kind of divvied out across, getting even steady weeks, you know what I mean? Instead of all at once and then having people come in. Because the other thing about it too is, if you don't have stuff that they want to trade towards, you might not get that collection they're looking to trade in because the section that they want to shop from is picked over.
That is something that I have heard more and more. Like the last interview we said, the gentleman said basically the same thing. We've talked to other store owners, and that seems to be the consensus is, I love going to these, and you can make good money on them, but you have to choose what you take out of your store, and then you don't have it anymore for other people to come in and look at.
It's the same thing for like online. Like people will ask me, do you sell a lot on eBay? And I'm like, not really. The reality of it is, what I throw on eBay is something that's lingered in the store.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I had this game in the store for $150 and nobody took it after a few months. It's going for $250 on eBay. So let's throw it on eBay. And even though we'll have fees and stuff, the fact that we had it so much cheaper in the store and I can mark it up on eBay, we might end up with even just slightly more than we would have got in the shop. But the other thing that I like is the ability to control the terms of the sale.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows, you've had those times where you sell something online and somebody will return it just because. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, we have parameters around the returns, and we're always going to be helpful to our customers, you know what I mean? But if somebody has something for 30 days and they decide they just don't want it anymore, that's not quite in our return window of the store, you know what I mean? Like, whereas on like Amazon or eBay, Amazon was even worse about it. I think it's like 60 or 90 days.
Yeah.
And the reason can literally be you just don't want it anymore, you know what I mean? And then then they send me back this half-broken thing that they opened and played with, even though they claimed that they didn't even use it. You know what I mean? And I've had a time where I sold a transformer, and the reason for returning it was too hard to transform, and then they sent it back without its accessories. You know what I mean?
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
And it's so hard to fight that.
I didn't even bother because I knew it wouldn't work out anyway. eBay will side with me sometimes. Amazon almost never sides with the seller, though. They're just like, here's your money back. F this guy over here.
Pretty much.
And that sucks because in those situations, you end up taking a loss.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to fight that's taking time that you probably don't have to sit there. That's not fair.
I'm pretty sure I took and just gave the transformer to a child that came into the store that week because it's like, I pick and choose my battles.
Sure.
There's no point in me. You know, in the past, I used to do it as a point of principle because, like, you're not getting me, you know what I mean? But, like, after a while, your time and your effort, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's better well spent somewhere else.
That's what I say. How much are your principles worth? Like, I would fight that battle, but how long is it going to take? How much money am I going to have to put into it to fight it or anything?
And it's only gotten harder. Yeah. Like, most times when you try to dispute stuff, it's automated, so it's even more hopeless of a battle. At least in years past, you could call and be like, explain a situation to a reasonable human being. Right. And be like, hey, I've been a good seller with you guys for time, and as you can see, I have a good track record, and, you know, all these other people say I didn't do anything, you know, do a bad job, and then this one person's basically saying I came to their house and kicked their dog and sold, you know what I mean? Like, so, of course it seems exaggerated, you know, now it's just, it's for no reason, it's all automation, and even if you talk to a human, they're like, well, it's an automated system, you're like, all right, fair enough, you know what I mean?
Okay. I think you're going to supply a pretty interesting answer for this. So, question 3. Since you're a content creator and you run a store, what are the difficulties between trying to balance the two?
Oh, goodness. Well, currently, the biggest challenge for me is whenever we do our show, we actually film it in the store. So whenever my co-host and the crew that works on our show and now our feature presentation show up from Florida, I have to tear the whole store apart, basically. The outer wall is the only thing that doesn't get technically messed with, and even it gets draped with black curtains and stuff like that. Every display case gets shoved into the corner of the store. So literally, the night before and the morning of the Thursday that we open that week, we're rebuilding the whole store every time. And I will tell you, it's not enjoyable. Because it's like, you got that Flight of the Bumblebee panic going. We're like, oh, I just want to get it back in reasonable order so people can come in and shop and we can have a normal week. But like, the first session especially, we were literally taking the camera equipment apart as people were walking in the door. And they're like, should we even be in here? And we're like, come in, we're sorry. We just... You know, the recording ran over. We were supposed to be done yesterday. We were doing some stuff the morning of the actual store opening. And we're starting to get the hang of it. What's funny is you'll notice even under some of the bigger display stands, there's furniture moving pieces.
Oh,
so that we can just slide the heavier cases. We just leave them on them now because, one of the challenges is just, trying to be able to do both things at the same time. And that was, when we first opened at the new place here, we were only open 3 days a week. So that I was doing that construction I told you guys about the other days a week that we had to do for the structure of the building. Right. So then we opened up Thursdays, and now I had thought about opening other days, but I technically stay closed on those days for 2 reasons. One being the restocking of the store, because I like to restock every section every week instead of waiting to get to them whenever we can. Mm-hmm. I every week restock every section the best that I can with the new stuff and backstock to fill something that's sold that we already have a double of. We have to save them still for the recording days. Since this is our studio and our store, for me to be able to record in here, we have to have a few days closed that I can actually do the recording in here.
So do you guys not have another area in this building somewhere that you could use as a studio type of thing?
Not really. Not that has the amount of space that's in here. Okay. The challenge with it is we pretty much have the upstairs all chewed up with my family stuff. And we do have a little bit of the recording in there. When you see the living room scene at the beginning of the first episode, that's just impromptu. We were let's hurry up and film it in here. And if you look closely, you can even see my kids drawn on the walls and stuff like that. Yeah. Before the last recording, I actually painted the walls again real quick because that first episode, I had a much more grandiose intro planned, but our time frame of recording was so tight because so many of the other things took such a long time to record.
Precedent.
One bit from the second episode took a whole day.
The whole day?
The whole day. It's the eviction services one with Applesauce and Junior because we were at multiple locations. There was so many different scenes with so many different people. And it was the first time that we'd done a recording. We just didn't have the time managed well enough. And, we were a little green about it. My production crew knew what they were doing. Those guys are great at what they do. But we were just figuring it out with how we were doing it. It was the first time we did it. So everything ran longer than we thought it would. It's that Murphy's Law scenario where anything that can happen does, happen kind of thing. And we literally, we were going to cut the sketch all together. And I woke up in the middle of the night before that we filmed that intro for the first episode, and I rewrote it really fast. And it was I was don't worry, Josh. And that's one of the things that we filmed on that Thursday that we weren't supposed to be recording was that intro. And I was because he was just gonna cut it, and I was let's just do this. And it was I think it's 30 seconds long. Yeah. You know what I mean? We had this big drawn out skit that was going to be the first intro skit, and instead it was just that quick and dirty thing. Simple but silly, and it seemed everybody enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we just it was meant to half be a skit, but half almost play off of when people tell you to like and subscribe to something, where I'm literally threatening you with a toy machine gun, telling you to subscribe or I'm going to shoot your head off. And I was worried about that. I was oh man, is YouTube going to be no, Brody, you can't be doing this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
See, if you remember, we commented about how I thought it was hilarious about the dude's studio that you broke into.
Right.
He's just yeah, sure, casual.
And that was Nick, of course, you know what I mean? That he's here at WarpZone with us. And
all of your skits are funny, but that's probably my favorite one. I like them all, though.
We had a lot of fun doing that one, too. And it plays off of the scene in Airheads where they're, basically talking, Rex is talking to Pip about how you need to be tougher with the hostages, basically. Because, you know what I mean? Kind of like me, I was the Pip character where I can be soft-spoken. He's you got to be meaner to these people. So that was me trying to, play off of that scene with our scene about the fake machine gun, which I always get a kick out of because I can't tell how many kids quote the fake machine gun thing to me, including my 4-year-old, which I think he may have saw the skit one time. And anytime he's playing with a plastic gun, he goes, "Hey, Daddy, look, fake machine gun, fake machine gun."
That's great. So how has being a business owner changed you personally, and what routines and habits have you adopted to avoid burnout and maintain your well-being?
it is really easy to get burned out. Retail is a tough business, as anyone knows. Anything that's customer service, you could have 99 fantastic customers in a row, and that 100th customer can ruin your whole day, your whole week.
Yep.
Because like that negativity, I just dwell on it at least. When somebody stands there, I try to do my best for people. My intention is not ever to do anybody dirty. I want somebody to walk away from here having a good experience. I want somebody to feel like they got their money's worth for something. They got treated with respect. And it was a happy, fun environment to be in while they were here. That's my goal. And every once in a while, there's people you just can't please. You know what I mean? And the fact that I try hard, and the guys that work with me try hard, it defeats us a little bit when somebody brings that negative attitude to you and like talks down to you or MFs you, standing there swearing at you, treating you like you're a dirtbag.
Sure.
And it's hard to recoil from that, or not to recoil from that. And I think sometimes what I have to do is just remind myself I did my best. You know what I mean? And I know that I try to do a good job for people. And if somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm always willing. A reasonable problem. If somebody's like, I bought this 3 years ago, and the battery died. You suck. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, man. Batteries die. You know what I mean, kind of thing. But if somebody comes to you with a reasonable problem, you know what I mean, I'm always willing to help out. I want to see, I can't tell you sometimes, how many times somebody's come in, and it's a problem I don't technically need to solve for them, but I want to, because I don't want, there's a grandma standing there with a little kid that's sad. I want to help grandma out. I want to help that little kid out. I used to be that little kid. And I remember back in the day when I'd go to a collector store that I got met with a comic book guy person versus like somebody that was like, hey kid, it's cool that you like stuff too. And I want, let me show you what you're looking for. I remember when I collected comics or trading cards, or even when I'd go to the mall and be like, hey, I heard this song on the radio. Let me describe it to you. I don't know, kid. They're over there somewhere, you know what I mean? I wanted to give kids a different experience than that. I didn't want to be met with comic book guy. I wanted to be the fun, friendly one, and I can't tell you how often that lifts my spirits. Then a little kid comes in and they're like, hey, Carey, you know what I mean? And they're happy to see me, and they want to give me a high five, and heck, some of them even run up and give me a hug, and you know what I mean? It helps offset the negativity that some of the angrier people that you can't please, you know what I mean? Like, I can't tell you how often, since we've been doing this for 13 years now, since we opened our original shop, it's wild to see a grown man standing there smiling at you to realize this 22 or 23-year-old's been coming since he was a 10-year-old. And that's that little boy that still has nostalgia for somebody that's treated him with kindness and respect. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Carey, you never minded that I hung out in the store and, asked you 100 questions. You know what I mean? And I was like, because I tried to remember what it was like for me in your shoes to be the one, asking those questions and having that enthusiasm about the thing that you're excited for, and you just want to share it with somebody. Like I said, like I'd go to a collector store, and it was quite frequently, somebody wasn't as excited, like, I don't know, kid, you know what I mean? Like, I never wanted to grow up to be the I don't know kid person. I always wanted to be the guy that was like, hey, bud, how you doing? Let me show you some stuff that you think is cool, too.
See, because I work in retail now, too, and like you, we're met with, unfortunately, negative people literally every day. But the thing is, to your point, being kind is free.
Yeah.
I just got back. Yesterday was my first day back from vacation. I was off for almost 2 weeks. And I had one of my regulars come up to me, and it damn near made me cry, because they were like, paraphrasing, like, hey, I see you working all the time. I see you hustling. You do this, you do that. And then they have this little thing on the bottom of the receipt. You can call the number to the corporate of my job I work at. And I got told by my bosses that someone took all the time, and it's annoying going through that process, lots of waiting on hold. But the fact that someone went through all that simply because I was being kind to them.
Making sure to acknowledge you.
Right. And it goes a long way, because kindness, like I said, kindness is free.
Something else, like, it always humbles me, and I almost feel bad to a degree. People will bring me like little gifts, like a drawing or something that they've crafted for me. And it's just like, you almost get that imposter syndrome, like, why do I deserve a gift? Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like, I'm very appreciative of them. I try to like keep all of them. I have them like randomly stacked around. I'll have a picture hanging on the wall or taped up. A little kid will just draw a little, version of me and one of the other guys or something like that. And it just makes my heart swell, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh man, you know what I mean? I mattered enough to this person that they took a little time out of their day and did something for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, I try to make sure I never, don't appreciate something like that. Or not to use a double net. I make sure that I always appreciate those kind of things. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's the kind of thing, like, don't take people for granted. Don't take a kind gesture for granted. You know what I mean? Appreciate people for their kindness.
Oh, okay. So, question 4. What is your favorite part about the gaming hobby from the perspective of a game store owner and from the perspective of a gamer, separating the two?
So do you want me to give 2 answers or one that kind of goes together?
2 answers, I suppose.
My favorite part as a gamer is probably just watching this hobby evolve, basically.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I've been one of those lucky people that I've got to be around, maybe not quite from the very beginning, but I was there, you know what I mean, like, to see most of it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, whether it be early PC games or arcade games or early consoles. Like, I'm not as old as, like, Pong was my first home arcade, or home console, but, I've been there since the 2600. And a lot of people, that's archaic to them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the old timer now, kind of thing. So it's cool to see, where things continue to evolve to as a gamer. It's cool to see the new batch of kids get excited about their own stuff. And I may not understand everything that comes out, just like when you hit that certain age, like, that's not your stuff. I at least can have an appreciation for it. Right. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's not my game, but I'm glad that you like it. Go ahead and show me that. Like, I'll tell my kid or one of the other children in the store, and I'll try to listen and, like, see what they have. I'll try to see the what's cool about it. And it might not be my thing, but I'll try it sometimes too. And be like, you know what, guys, that's just not the game for me. But hey, you want to see an old game that I like? You know what I mean? And I like, just like I do with, like, movies, I also like with games, I like to expose people to ones that maybe they've never seen before.
Sure.
Hey, if you like this one, what's cool that one's probably influenced by is check this one out over here. This is one that I liked when I was little. And maybe you'll like it too, because it's kind of like the one that you play. You know what I mean? I'll do that kind of stuff. And from the store owner position, it's a similar thing. It's interesting to watch, like, how things, change. It's interesting to watch the evolution. It changes rapidly sometimes. You know what I mean? And, like, I'll be honest, I'm surprised sometimes with. I'm excited to see the evolution, but sometimes I'm saddened by it too.
Sure.
Because I continuously watch stuff fall to the wayside that kind of slowly gets forgotten. Like, a lot of the older stuff and the more obscure stuff, like when I first opened the shop, you'd get something weird in and it would sell really quick because it was this weird oddity. And now it's kind of like, if it's not as well known, it just kind of gets ignored. Like that Channel F that you guys filmed during the walkthrough, that's something that if we got it 5-10 years ago, it'd have been out the door like this. But now it's just kind of like, it's kind of lost to the ages. The people that would have wanted it probably already got it. And the people that are younger that don't have it don't even know what it is a lot of times. You know what I mean? Or it's just outside of their, realm of collecting. And I think the challenge with people nowadays, aside from, affording things, you know what I mean? It's space. Yeah. You know what I mean? I can't tell you, like, stuff like big box stuff used to be so popular. You get those giant collector's editions. And I just notice more and more people are like, where am I going to put this thing? Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's neat to watch. It's also neat to watch, like I said, from the store owner, my clientele evolve as humans. Like I said, like these little kids that have been coming here that are grown adults now. And like, how did this happen? You know what I mean? Like you look in the mirror and you age instantly and like, oh my God, how are you a grown adult now? I remember when you came in here picking your nose. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's neat to see these people that still have their passion and love for the hobby. And, it's exciting to see them as, grown adults still like being big kids, like it was so funny because I'll tell you, just as an example, I never was afraid to just be who I was and enjoy what I enjoy. My nephew back in the day used to say to his grandparents, I can't wait till I get older and I'll be like Carey, I'll go to the store and buy toys and they'll think they're for my kids, but they're for me. And that's, you know what I mean? Like, just love what you love and do what you want to do. And it's, that's what I like. I think that's something that I've tried to impart on kids. Like, it's okay to like what you like. Because, like, when I was growing up, if you liked, like, a obscure thing, you almost treated you like you were weird. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, you'd almost get made fun of, like, oh, he likes these things. And, you'd almost get picked on for it. I feel like it's become a little more celebrated now.
So,
you know what I mean? Like, where you can have a niche hobby and you're not the weird kid anymore. And I can't tell you how many times I pulled a kid aside or even corrected a parent. Like, maybe correcting's a bad way to put it. Maybe convince the parent that it's not weird. Like, I don't know, he likes this dumb stuff. And, like, instead of, like, leaving that go, sometimes I'll try to, like, just change a parent's perspective on something like that. Be like, yeah, my parents used to say that too about me and my best friend. Now he works for Bungie and I own a video game store. You know what I mean? It's okay to have passion about something. It doesn't have to just be a hobby. You can evolve it into something that you do for your profession because you are so excited about it and you care about it. And I've tried to do that a few times to help a little dude out or a little girl out, you know what I mean? To make sure to tell their parents, it doesn't have to be stupid. You know what I mean? This can be something that's not, it's so easy for somebody to think of something as frivolous or pointless. And, there's just, that could be about anything. You know what I mean? Like, that'd be like if their parent told them, like, when they were kids, like, I don't know why you do this fishing stuff all the time. It's just a waste of time. It's like, everybody's hobby is their hobby. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to mean that it's a waste of time. And I try to educate people that way.
It's kind of wild how, to what you were saying back in the day, like, oh my God, we are old, I'm saying back in the day. But this used to be so taboo. Like, you used to have to, like, hide in the corner and play your Nintendo because, oh my God, I can't go to school and tell my classmates I'm a nerd. And then now here we are. Look, you run a game store. We have a gaming channel. And it's just different. And I love that.
It's a part of who we are. And, we're allowed to celebrate that.
Sure.
We're allowed to, enjoy what we do. I got invited to career day at my child's school.
God. How'd that go?
Like I said, same thing with the parents in here. I started off with like, hey, your parents ever act like it's dumb that you like to play video games? Well, it's okay that they're wrong, basically, is what I told them. You know what I mean? I was like, my parents, used to tell me that. My best friend's parents used to tell him that. And it's like, we grew up and we do stuff in the video game industry. Like, he's worked on both Destiny games. And like I said, I've owned 2 different video game stores. And I get to be, semi-well-known in the industry because I've got to have lots of cool adventures just by being at the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? I got to hold the Super Nintendo PlayStation just because I, had a Super Famicom game to lend the guy at the convention he was at. So he's like, hey, you want to touch it? I'm like, absolutely. You know what I mean?
I remember when you first showed me the picture and told me about that, I was practically drooling at the mouth. I'm like, oh my God, that is the Nintendo PlayStation.
And that's just me getting to be lucky. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing about it is, like, just right place, right time. And like you said, though, it's like kindness goes a long way. That was me just trying to help a person out. And he, reciprocated by like, hey, man, thanks for being a cool dude and, lending us some games to demo this with. You want to mess around with it for a few minutes? I'm like, heck yeah, brother. You know what I mean? And that's what I've tried to do in every aspect of this industry is be friendly and kind to the people I've interacted with. I've always tried to thank people for being helpful to me or thankful that they've included me in something that they've done, and it goes a long way. You know what I mean? Like, people were then, happy to reach back out to you. You know what I mean? I've donated to, things to raffle stuff off for different, events and stuff like that, and people tend to, remember that you tried to be helpful instead of like, only worrying about your own interests.
Because look at us, for example, like me and Jimmy here, we're plebs in the grand scheme of things, but you are being kind, courteous, and generous to us. You're letting us come out and do all these fun things at your store, and we appreciate that.
I'm happy to, you know what I mean? Because everybody needs a foot in the door sometimes is the thing too. And something that I always enjoy too is at least once a year I have a kid that does like a school project on the store. Like it'll like we've been the senior project for a couple different people and stuff like that, and it's just I'm glad to help out. You know what I mean? Like give them a little bit of your time because again they've championed you as something to do that project on. Don't be dismissive of them. You know what I mean? Make sure that you take them serious just like they're taking me serious. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to walk on anybody's hopes and ambitions. You know what I mean? So I want to try to be as helpful as I can.
Your last question, Jimmy?
Yep. Okay. Well, can I get 2 questions? Because I have 2 questions that I would really like to ask here.
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, so what is a hill you're willing to die on when it comes to gaming? It could be a hot take, an underrated gem, or even just a controversial opinion about a popular game.
Question. Oh, that's great.
There's no bad games, if that makes any sense to you. Because
I
even a bad game can be enjoyed.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many streamers, or back in the day when I used to watch, the AVGN videos every week at my desk, they'd put out a new episode. And like, typically he's reviewing games that he would say, these are terrible games. I'm like, that was one of my favorite games. You know what I mean? It's like,
say something positive about Cheetah Man.
You are getting
Okay.
All right.
But no, I get where you're coming from.
No, I
At least they tried.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you've never seen the commercial for it,
I have.
I'd say the commercial for it's probably the best thing about it because you got somebody doing a fake Sylvester Stallone accent, a fake like Australian accent, and they sure do sell that game in the commercial because they're like, oh man, why would you want one game when you can have this many games on one cartridge?
That was great. Go ahead, you can do your next one.
You saw a couple, so go ahead.
Okay, well, I got like 4 more, but I'm only going to ask one.
Okay.
Which one do I... Okay, I'm going to do that one, but yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the Stop Killing Games movement and the drama surrounding it? I won't mention any names about specific people.
I'm not aware of this, so you guys might have to educate me on this first.
Oh, that's totally fine. No big deal.
What is the Stop Killing Games movement?
Oh, how do I sum this up?
The big one was there's a game called The Crew. It had single player features for it, but you still had to be online while the servers shut down.
So you're talking about like shutting servers down so the game's not playable anymore.
Like that they paid full amounts of money for and they can't play.
And now you can't do anything with it anymore.
I mean, there's so many more nuances to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can share my opinion. I just didn't know about like the way that like you guys were like identifying it. I just
well, that's the official name of the movement.
Okay.
There's a petition and everything in mostly in Europe because that's where it like really started.
It's a scary thing in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that like you can have a game that you love and you've been playing the heck out of, and one day somebody can flip a switch and it's just gone.
Yeah.
And that. The idea of like losing media is a scary thing to me, and that's why I started collecting physical movies in addition to physical games, because I stopped collecting physical movies for a while, but then I had that happen to me with movies, just like I've had it happen to me with games, and it's just like, man, why should something that I've already obtained just go away? And I kind of understand slightly more for games than movies, but I don't champion it in either direction.
Oh, sure.
Because it's like, you shouldn't be able to just take something away that already existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand they're paying for server space and stuff like that. That's why it's just like, I'm almost hesitant to ever play something that's only online.
Yeah.
Because that you have to figure it's eventually going to go that way no matter what. Because like once they don't see it as financially viable from whatever perspective, they're going to flip that switch. And I'm using that generically. I know it's not
I
switch, but it's just kind of like, it almost makes me hesitate to ever start a game like that anymore. With the possibility of it just being, the rug being pulled out from under you, and there's a few games that I've played over the years that are online only, and they do still exist, but I've watched other people lose, stuff that's near and dear to their heart, you know what I mean? And it's like, man, I know sometimes I know you can have like a private server for certain things, and you know
Yeah,
you can
I
go
was gonna
that
say
route, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like, or you know what I mean? Like, they might not even be allowed to do that either. You know, somebody might like hinder them from doing so. But the thing about it is like that's why I'm always a fan of a game having both options of an offline and online mode, so that then if something like the server getting shut down occurs, you can at least still enjoy the game that's on the physical media that you've already obtained, or the download that you've already downloaded. You know what I mean? Rather than it just being like, this doesn't function anymore.
Guys, I can actually give you a really specific example. Back in the day, Phantasy Star Online for the Dreamcast, the GameCube, the PC, so on, I put an obscene amount of hours into that game when it was officially on the Sega servers. We're talking thousands of hours. And when it shut down, that was my World of Warcraft. You know, I'm not trying to say it's better than WoW, but that was my WoW. And when it shut down, I was so heartbroken, and there was a server that eventually came on called Blue Burst. And I tried it for a little bit, but all those hours of progress and...
It's like starting over.
Yeah, and friends that... I got a few of my friends to transfer over and try it, but it started completely over, and it just... The love wasn't there. The love was still there, but... Like, I couldn't go back and regain all those thousands of hours.
You lost everything you accomplished, basically.
Right.
All right, and then my final question is here. If you could be the main character in any game franchise, who would you choose and why?
I might have to go with... Oh, man, who do I want to be?
No take backsies either.
No
Final
take
answer.
It might have to be Alucard from Symphony of the Night.
Okay.
Just the evolution that you can go through with like equipment and like abilities and stuff like that. I've always been a Metroidvania person, you know, having started this, you know, Samus from the original Metroid and then Super Metroid, which is my favorite one. And then when Symphony of the Night came out, I'm just like, Super Metroid with Dracula and, you know, like, you know, gothic stuff and you know, castle scenarios and monsters instead of aliens and
the
you know,
music.
Oh
The
my goodness.
music.
You had that you know, eerie music mixed with the heavy metal riffs, and it was just one of those things. Like, he was just such a cool character too. You know what I mean? It was like as you could customize him and you could change like the color of his, you know, cape and stuff like that. And I was just like, yeah, this is for me. This is the pinnacle of cool. You know what I mean? It was just definitely one of those ones I just replayed over and over. And man, he definitely has an arsenal of abilities too. I mean, you can turn into a poisonous cloud. That poisonous cloud thing always stuck with me. I was like, man, imagine being like indestructible but hurting people at the same time.
I mean,
because you're literally just
sword.
poison that can't even be harmed. You know.
Could you imagine? No, I've got a really amusing image in my head. So, say you conquered your store and everything got flipped upside down. Imagine you know, when the castle turned around after you get... Could you imagine traversing in here? Like, you just wake up one day and everything is upside down.
Hopefully these glass cases are attached to the
That's
ceiling.
Right. Yeah, we'll play with the assumption that
nothing
on
falls.
The ceiling now.
Yeah, it would definitely, you have to step over the weird spots in the ceiling and stuff like that. And I always loved that too in the inverted castle, how like the two highest points were just connected together, and it was such a cool concept.
It was clever. Heck,
it was in. Up until then, you really didn't see something like that. So it's just like, you know, it was like the reversal, you know what I mean, like midway through the game. And of course, you could just not end it right by, you know, not using the proper equipment like you do in Castlevania to see the orb you need to kill instead of the enemy. And it was just so cool to be like, you have another whole half of the game to play, basically. And I'd like to see the upside down version of WarpZone. You know what I mean? It's going to be the darker, scarier version of it. It's kind of like,
you'd have to like glue yourself to the ceiling so you can operate the register and just like
you're like jumping to reach things.
So I would say, speaking of Sotan, while you brought it up, the only thing, and this is more of a nitpick than a bad thing, that practically breaks the game. Now, I forget the name of the weapon, but it was this one hole, and I'm sitting there grinding through this game of levels, and then Damascus, is that what it is?
Are you thinking of Crusagram? Is it the
Crusagram, yeah.
So Crusagram, you have to.
You don't stop your movement. You just keep going. It breaks the game. I found it accidentally.
It's so wonderful and terrible at the same time, because I will say this: you had to basically grind in the upside down library, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there's another.
And the character's a floating head called a shmoo, and you had to. Sometimes you'd get it in the first 10, and then sometimes you'd have to kill 100 of them to get one. I would always get 2 of them, and I would dual wield them. And I would just tap the 2 buttons as I traverse through the whole castle, and you are just like a lawnmower, just killing everything. And then even when you get to the end guy, it's like, well, want to see me kill the end guy in 10 seconds or less? Because I would always level myself as high as you could get before. I do that in every game, to where it's like you level yourself so much, you get in, and it's anticlimactic to fight the boss because you're so leveled and everything's so powered up that you're like, watch this.
I'm having that same issue with Trinity Trigger right now. I've spent so much time grinding that way too easy.
It's cool, but it takes something away from it at the same time, because it's cool how powerful you are, but then it takes that challenge away. You know what I mean? It's like you're like Superman at full power, where it's like, what's he got to fear except for that one, weakness, kryptonite, or, I know, yes, in Superman's case, magic and other certain things, he has to worry about too. But when he's at full power without any kind of Achilles heel, you know what I mean? It's like, there's nothing to worry about. You know what I mean? There's no challenge. There's no fear of winning. You know what I mean? It takes the stakes away, basically.
Yeah. If you've already beaten the game, that's one thing. But if it's your first time playing through, you probably shouldn't do that, because you're taking away from the experience, the intended experience.
They should have almost made it harder to get the Crusagram.
I agree, because I found it accidentally.
I think that's a lot of people, because, I don't think it's something that a lot of people did notice at first. I do believe it is in the strategy guide, but it definitely wasn't common knowledge right away. It's definitely something that, somebody pointed it out to me, because I didn't have the strategy guide, and you could use the internet back then for stuff like that, but the online guides were a little rough to go through sometimes, the way they had them formatted and stuff. If you guys remember Game Facts?
Yes,
I still use Game Facts.
I used to print them out.
Oh my goodness!
I'm sure your parents
love that.
Oh yeah, peeling off the old dot matrix peelable print paper and stuff like that. But yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was something that should have been harder to come by, than something just grinding out of, because the shmoos weren't even that difficult to kill.
Because I found myself when I was sitting there using it, I was like, this is too easy, so I'm just going to handicap myself. I'm going to take it off and put on a different weapon. But as soon as I start struggling, I'm like, oh, but it's right there.
I can use it. I'm just going to use it for this part.
Just for this fight.
Thanks for watching the video. If you want to be a part of the herd, make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications. That way you'll never miss an upload. And most importantly, long live gaming.